Hi there, and welcome to the Condo Cinema. My name is Aaron, and this is a special episode tonight because we're doing what's called a Collector's Corner. It's the first of a new series where I'm bringing in another media collector to talk about their collection, to let me know some of the stuff that they grab, that they collect. I'm waiting for them to actually show up right now, so we got a couple minutes to wait. There is a couple sales going on right now, so while I'm waiting for them to come in, I'll actually give a quick rundown of what's happening right now. Because it's I was sent a message by my good friend George actually, and he mentioned that Radiance Films right now are having a special sale, a special flash sale going on right now from Radiance Films. Hey there, Ice Lord. Hey there, Alan. We got Gino coming in very soon. Hey there, George. I just mentioned you, man. But while we're waiting, I wanted to give a quick show and a quick shout out to a couple sales that we'll be focusing on. We'll focus on them a bit more tomorrow because we'll be doing the Vinegar Center sale. Oh, just see, I'm just waiting for him to come through. Oh, there we go. And let's bring in. I can't quite see you. You're kind of dark there, Jim. Now I can see you. Can you hear me okay?
I know my iPad's being very slow tonight.
That's okay. We were just talking about the fact that Radiance Films is having a flash sale right now because apparently everybody's having a sale right now. I'm sure nobody takes like stuff seriously. Matter. Everybody has differences of opinions, which is perfectly fine. Hey there, Jaden. Welcome back. So,
I'm doing this on my iPad so I can see the questions in chat.
Okay. That's what. So what I want to do is I want to focus basically on stuff that you're collecting. So why don't you let people know the type of stuff that you collect and what you're most interested in? Your titles.
Well, I was thinking that we were going to go over each of our collections here tonight, and
Actually, mine would take too long. Two, I just brought over. I just brought my milk quick over in crate, so I decided like we'd focus on we're focusing on you because you're the collector in the corner, and I wanted to make this a new series. So I'm the host, man. You're the guest. You get your spotlight.
All right, how am I coming through over there? Anybody on YouTube, please let me know how I'm coming through over there because I know my iPad is being really slow for some reason tonight, and I'm hoping that I'm coming through. At least
you're coming through okay. It's a little bit slower and choppier. If you wanted to use the other thing, I can always let you know if like questions if people are asking as well. So either way you want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave my iPad
here.
and I'll go into the laptop.
Not a problem. Well, you fix up what you need to do.
Right,
just hit the link again, come back in, and I'll be right here, man. So we're waiting for Gino to get his laptop and stuff fixed up. End up buying from the Blue Underground sale instead of the Severn sale. You know, I didn't even know. I don't think I even covered the Blue Underground sale. But what I'm about to mention right now, we're waiting for Gino there to come in, is let's look at this. So Radiance, because you couldn't have enough sales, because there wasn't enough sales out there. Radiance is having a sale too. And they're a newer company. This is like a flash sale. It's ending on Monday. So add code 2 for 25 at the checkout. So let me just make sure I got your stuff up here. Because it's going to be a awfully short video if I can't see any of your messages. Oh yeah, he was going on the iPad, which sometimes it'll happen. They spent 100 on the Severin sale. Oh, man, I would love to have. So you have Severin, Blundgren, Impulse, Vinegar Syndrome, Kino Lorber, Full Moon, Synapse, Radiance, Grindos. You forgot Criterion. uh, and or did you forget Criterion? Yeah, Criterion's there too, man. But we did a video on it this morning. And Radiance right here. So looks like it's a 2 for 25 sale that's going on. So I'm gonna guess this is like add two. Oh no, it's 2 for 30 at the checkout. Radiance is supposed to have some really great stuff. I haven't like been able to get any of their stuff quite yet. I did reach out to them, but because I'm in Morocco, they said they couldn't send stuff my way. But I might reach out to them, see if they can send stuff to my Canadian way, and see how that goes. Yeah, actually. You're back in. Oh, there we go. Now I can see you.
And hopefully it's 60 frames per second as well.
Or at least 30.
Yeah.
So, Gino, introduce yourself. Let people know who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gino Cuddy, and I hope everyone's having a great evening tonight.
So you do I've seen you've written some reviews for Westerns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big Western fan.
Mm-hmm.
Me, myself, I love, so what's your Western, what type? Like, would you say you're more like the John Wayne, the earlier stuff, like the spaghetti Western type, or?
Well, I could watch a spaghetti Western. I don't have any problems with the spaghetti Westerns, but when I think Westerns, I think of Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Sunset Carson, Hoot Gibson, Ken Maynard, the B Western cowboys of the time, who many of them were real life cowboys.
Oh, much more than the John Waynes. Yeah, I actually, Ken Maynard is one that rings really true to me. I went to one of the many things I went to school for, Gino. I went to art school, and I had to do a portfolio. One of the people that I drew was Ken Maynard.
Oh, wow. Do you still have that piece?
I wish. I had like a whole, like, when I went in, I had to do this whole like big like portfolio, and I used to use chalks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I did I did a Ken Maynard, I did a Michael Myers, I did like skeletal, like structure of a horse, and a whole bunch of things. But there you impressed my dad. He's a big Hoppy fan.
Oh yes, Hopalong Cassidy, good old William Boyd.
Looks like Keg says his favorite is Alan Ladd. Matt's also a big fan of Hoppy there. Like, who doesn't like Hoppy, man? I think Cassidy is probably known not just for being like a great Western star, but being like the best and the first guy to really like understand promotion when it came to film. He got it. Like, he was the first one to really get it and to really kind of like promote himself and take over his own like identity and get out like the Hopalong Cassidy, like the toys and then lunch boxes and all the comics and all that stuff. He was the first one to really kind of like grasp how important that was. So I'm guessing at a young age you probably started like watching like the Westerns. Around what age would you say, or what film kind of brought you into it?
Well, actually, I wasn't. I mean, I'm relatively young. I'm 28 years old. But as far as when I started watching them, I would say it was about 2017, 2018 time period.
Oh, wow.
And
so it's more of a new thing.
yes. And the first Western that I remember watching was a Billy the Kid, Buster Crabbe PRC Western entitled Fuzzy Settles Down, which centered around the Buster Crabbe sidekick, Fuzzy Q. Jones, who would also be the sidekick for, I believe, Lash LaRue, George O'Brien, I believe, and a great number of other cowboys.
So you really got into the early stuff, which is one, I'm going to say that's fantastic, because as an older guy, I'm always happy when I find out like younger people are getting into some of the older stuff. There's a YouTuber on here, and she didn't do stuff for a while, but she came back on, and she watches a lot of the Criterions and the older stuff, and I'm like, was so good to see somebody that was around like the age of my kids who do watch that type of stuff. But like that, there's more out there. So I'm glad there's more out there like Eugene. I'm glad you're one of the good ones. If you were to choose like a favorite out of those, could you pick one? Could you pick just one?
What of my favorite Western star?
Yeah.
I would have to say Sunset Carson.
Oh.
Well, and the reason I say that is because he was a tall drink of water. I believe around 6 foot 6 inches, and he was built as well, and a good looking chap as well. And his westerns at Republic Pictures are among the most action laden westerns you're ever likely to see. I mean, on my other YouTube channel, which is Gino's House of Rare Films, where I upload a lot of rare short films and orphan films that haven't gotten or are likely not to get a physical media distribution. I uploaded one of his films entitled Santa Fe Saddlemates, and he gets into 3 fights in under the first minute of the film. And they're beautifully choreographed fights too, because they had the late great stuntman Yakima Canutt, who revolutionized fight choreography in movies, doing a lot of that work.
Oh, without him, those Indiana Jones sequences would never have happened, man.
Right.
Because for those that don't know, like there's a sequence in Raiders of the Lost Ark where he goes under the truck, and that's from Yakima doing it under a stagecoach in a much earlier western, and a lot of like stunts were taken from. He was like an amazing stuntman.
Oh, absolutely, and pretty good director too. He directed another Sunset Carson film entitled Sheriff of Cimarron, which is probably one of Carson's best during his tenure at Republic. So sensational fight choreographer and sensational action film director as well.
So with collecting and like watching like westerns, especially the classic stuff like the Sunset Carsons and the Last Cheroos and guys like that, do you find it harder like to locate them now, like actually kind of find actual physical media releases for those there? Do you have like a company that you look towards when you're looking for stuff like that? I know we mentioned that you can find a lot of stuff with like Mill Creek, and when you find those 20 or 50 movie, 100 movie like western sets and stuff, you're looking to a lot of stuff there. So is that your first go-to place, or do you have another one where you find like I know there was a place called I think Oldies put it out called Alpha Video.
Yes.
The quality wasn't always the best, but their covers were amazing. And they would do a lot of the old stuff, the westerns and Rin Tin Tin serials and all that stuff. A lot of alpha westerns. There are a lot of alpha westerns. There. Somebody's got
Here comes the big old box.
big old box. Yeah. I remember like going to flea markets and like finding alpha and falling in love with them they just had such amazing cases.
Yes, like let me see. As I have like this one, for example, which is taken straight from the original poster art. This is a DVD of Ken Maynard in Fighting Through, which is one of his best westerns that he made for Tiffany Productions, which was the jewel of Hollywood's Poverty Row.
The covers on those things are absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah, yeah. This whole box right here is filled with Ken Maynard and Hoot Gibson goodness. I love Ken Maynard and Hoot Gibson. I mean, Buster Crabbe was my first Western star that I really grew to love, but after that, it's Ken and Hoot. And then Sunset Carson came along a little later, and of course Lash LaRue. So I love a lot of the early B-Western stars, and a lot of this stuff is just fantastic stuff that you're likely not to get anywhere else.
Now, did you ever follow any of them outside the westerns? Because I know Lash LaRue and a few others, once the westerns stopped becoming popular, they did like kind of like detective or noir type of stories, and around like the late 40s, early 50s and stuff. You'd see some Lash LaRue stuff, but it was no longer the western stuff. He was like he tried to do it, had a kind of a detective persona as well. Did you ever follow through any of those, or?
Well, in the case of Lash LaRue, he unfortunately had the dishonor of starring in a adult film called Hard on the Trail. And he was unaware that he was starring in an adult film. But thankfully, he's not actually performing any deeds in that film.
There's a few actors that actually got tricked that way. I know that like Reggie Nalder, the guy that played in Salem's Lot,
Yeah.
was actually in two. I didn't realize it was in Cameron Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I guess if as long as he didn't have to do those scenes and they still got the money, right? So you got to feed your family, right?
Right. I mean, Sammy Petrillo went from being a Jerry Lewis imitator in Bela Lugosi Meets Brooklyn Gorilla to doing Doris Wishman movies. So you got to eat. You got to eat.
Yeah, Auto Ray. There's my dad mentioned Auto Ray and Sweet Savage.
Oh,
Another
yeah.
one where kind of got like, but I actually didn't mind Sweet Savage because it did have that kind of Western aesthetic. It wasn't an adult film, but it had the Western aesthetic to it, and that I kind of appreciated that they tried.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see some of your movies there. Let's see some things from the box.
All right. Well, do we want to focus on Mill Creek, or do we want to go around and do everything? Because
Do a little bit of everything. Show me some of your favorites. Show me some stuff that you that you like, some stuff that you recommend that people look at or check out, or even if it's not something that's in print now, that might be something that somebody might be able to like. Okay, I'm going down to my local, whether it's my pawn shop, my local kind of flea market area. Some stuff that they might be able to come across, and Mill Creek and Alpha do tend to be ones that people can come across sometimes. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, a set that I could recommend, even though I think it's out of print now. I know for a fact it's out of print because this is an older edition. As a matter of fact, my copy's a little sun faded. But here is the 20 movie pack, Billy the Kid.
Nice.
And what this is, pardon me, is actually 20 of the PRC, Producers Releasing Corporation's Billy the Kid films. The series started out with Bob Steele playing the notorious outlaw. It's interesting. In this series of films, in the PRC Billy the Kid films, he was presented more as an anti-hero than an out-and-out outlaw. And then after Bob Steele played him for a little bit, then they brought in Buster Crabbe, who everybody remembers as Flash Gordon, Tarzan, and some serials. He was really the king of the serials because he did a lot of different projects and a lot of those cliffhanger films. They brought him in as Billy the Kid. And sooner or later, I guess PRC I would assume they got letters from parents or something saying that, hey, you're glorifying a serial killer, so perhaps you shouldn't be doing that. So they renamed him Billy Carson for the rest of the series run. But this series has a lot of good ones, like Billy the Kid Trapped, Billy the Kid's Gun Justice, Devil Riders, The Kid Rides Again, His Brother's Ghost, which I recommend, which His Brother's Ghost is interesting because playing one of the villains is an actor named Archie Hall, who of course is Arch Hall Jr.'s father.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sheriff of Sage Valley, in which Buster Crabbe plays a dual role. And also on this set is Wild Horse Phantom, which is an interesting one because it actually contains footage. I believe there's some footage of it. And also, I believe they use the exact same bat prop from the Bela Lugosi film, The Devil Bat. So that's an interesting one to check out. If you're ever getting to the Halloween spirit and you're in a mood for westerns for whatever reason, that's a good one to check out.
And it's nice because the thing is when you're watching, a lot of people do the 31 days of horror, and after a while you're watching the same thing over and over again. You're like, I need something to break it up. So that's actually a pretty good chase.
Yeah, and well, from the Alpha video label, we got Tombstone Canyon with Ken Maynard, which is just a fabulous film. Essentially, there's a masked bandit known as the Phantom, and he's in search of his lost child. And I'm not going to give it away. The spoiler alert: Ken Maynard is his lost child. But it's a good little film, quite atmospheric, and I would have to say this Ken Maynard film, Tombstone Canyon, was made during his tenure at Worldwide Pictures, which was a Poverty Row studio owned by E.W. Hammonds, who also ran Educational Pictures, who distributed a lot of short subject comedies. And I believe his Tiffany films and his Worldwides to be his best films that he made, at least when he was working the Poverty Row circuit. They're just packed to the gills with action and Ken's amazing stuntmanship on horseback. He was a great horseman, just fabulous. And this is another great film to pop on during the Halloween season, given the Phantom theme and just the creepy performance of the Phantom character. And Ken is great in this, of course, as he always is. He you know, that's the one thing that you could say about a lot of these actors, especially the ones who work part of the role. Like people talk about Bela Lugosi never giving in a ham-fisted performance. He always gave it his 100% best. Well, a lot of these cowboys were the same way. They even if the material was a little they still gave a pretty good performance.
They put their bodies in, like right into it as well. When you think like a lot of the stunt work that was done, especially
Right.
back then, and the bad guys, like you'd most of the time you'd always know the bad guys, but they were so good.
Yes. Yeah, my favorite villain in all of B westerns, besides Roy Barcroft, has to be the late great Charlie King, who I believe as he got more physically obese, he got a lot more annoying and he got a lot more in your face, and I love that about him. He has this big long mustache and is always causing trouble, and he looks slovenly, but he's great. He is great as a villain. He's great as a henchman. He's great, in any sort of role that he's in. And just look up Charlie King. It's like whenever I see his name in the cast, I'm always excited because I know I'm in for a good time. He was in a lot of films with like Tex Ritter, Ken Maynard, I believe Hugh Gibson worked with him, Buster Crabbe, certainly in the PRC films. So Charlie King is one of my favorite of the movie cowboy villains.
Are you a Wild? I got to mention this because I know my dad is, and Wild Bill Elliott.
I haven't seen much of his material. I have to admit. I'll have to look into that. Does your dad have any film recommendations for Wild Bill Elliott? I'll most certainly take a look at him. And I should also mention here too, by the way, that I actually review these B westerns on a website called Cinema Crazed, which is cinema-crazed.com. And I run a column there named Western Wednesdays. It's a bi-weekly column where I review these old B westerns, and I try to interject a little bit of behind the scenes information as well. The most recent one doesn't have a lot of behind the scenes information, but I think it's still a pretty good review. I reviewed the Jay Wilsey film, The Texan from 1932, and Jay Wilsey went by the name of Buffalo Bill Jr. long before Dickie Jones did on television.
Now send me that link again after the video, and I'll put it in at the description box of the video so people can actually see it. And
Absolutely.
Go check out the website.
Absolutely, will do. So, as we're talking Mill Creek, I have this set of John Wayne films. Now, it's always interesting. Well, I guess they do have some films from his later period, like McClintock, which you can't say the title like that. And whenever anybody says McClintock, I chills go up my because there's an exclamation point at the end of the title. So you have to say McClintock. So this has a lot of his films that he made for Monogram, and it's interesting. Elliott is most known for the Red Ryder movies. Oh, okay, with Alan Rocky Lane. Is that? Oh, okay. I'll have to take a look at those. So in these films, in the set, you have stuff like Blue Steel, The Dawn Rider, The Man from Utah, The Star Packer. And I want to take a moment here to plug my friend Larry Pettit's blog, which is the Northeast Ohio Video Collector, I believe is what it's called. He is a big fan of the Lone Star Monogram John Wayne westerns from this time period, and he's one of the guys that got me into B Western. So I want to give a big tip of the cowboy hat to him for writing that blog. And going on, you have stuff like Helltown, Neath the Arizona Skies, Randy Rides Alone, Angel and the Bad Man, McClintock, the American West of John Ford, and then you have stuff like Desert Command, The Hurricane Express, and His Private Secretary, and it has bonus 80 minutes of John Wayne movies, trailer spanning his colorful career, found on disc 3. So pretty good set. I think you might have a set that's similar to this because I remember watching one of your videos, and
Yeah, I think I have that set actually.
Yeah.
If it's not the same set, it's one with I think the same movies with a different case, because Mill Creek did tend to do that early on.
Mhm.
Big shout out to Swift, who's actually at the airport right now, about ready to board a flight. So Swift, safe travels, man, and hopefully it's someplace you're going someplace for a good relaxing reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish you safe travels as well, and I hope that you get to your destination on time as well. Then we have Western Classics. This has this has stuff like Angel and the Bad Man, Arizona Stagecoach, Bells of San Angelo, Gone with the West, Judge Priest, McClintock is on here, The Outlaw with Jane Russell, Painted Desert with William Boyd, which I have to take umbrage with Mill Creek on something. On the box, it says starring Hopalong Cassidy. Now, the thing is William Boyd is in one of these movies, but he's not playing Hopalong Cassidy. It's actually the Painted Desert is actually an earlier film from his career, and I believe it also has Clark Gable in it, so that's worth checking out. Roundup Time in Texas, Tex Rides with the Boy Scouts, which I've just started getting into. Tex Ritter, of course, Tex Ritter being the father of John Ritter from Three's Company, Clifford the Big Red Dog, and other such projects. Yeah,
The Singer of High Noon, the classic song.
Yes, indeed. And I do love me some Tex Ritter. I do love me some Singing Cowboys. I think, for my money, Gene Autry is pound for pound my favorite. They never lie in marketing, you ephemera. Yeah.
Like it was, I guess, like at the end of the day, though, like if to bring people in, like people will know him as Hopalong Cassidy once they see him, and they may not know him as William Boyd.
Right.
But they did put a really good, because I got it, a good, I think my dad has it too, and I'm sure you got it, Hopalong Cassidy set. Like a really nice Hopalong Cassidy set.
And I actually have two of these. I have one of these Cowboys and Bandits, which is still sealed. So I don't know if you wanted to do this, but I don't know if you have a Patreon goal, Aaron. But perhaps if you meet your Patreon goal and whoever helps you to get to that goal, maybe I'll send them the spare of this. Who knows?
There you go, guys. Like you can always super chat or donate, maybe win something.
So on this set, you have stuff like The Boss Cowboy with Buddy Roosevelt, who I have to say was one of the most unfortunate cowboys in the world because of the fact that he was going to be in a film called In Old Arizona, in which I believe he was going to play the Cisco Kid. But unfortunately, a leg injury prevented him from doing that. So he wound up, got any love for the Cisco Kid? Duncan Reynaldo. My father-in-law loves Westerns. Yep. And so he had a leg injury which prevented him from being the Cisco Kid, and the role wound up going to Warner Baxter, who wound up winning the Oscar for the role. And further adding to his troubles was his wife, Buddy Roosevelt's wife, because of the fact that he was actually going to be the one that was going to star in those Lone Star Westerns before they hired John Wayne.
Oh, wow.
So they were going to hire him, but his wife said, "Oh, I want more money. He wants more money." So
he's a George Raft of Westerns.
Yeah. Yes.
But no, I mean, like as for Cisco Kid, I grew up with the Cisco Kid, the show with Duncan Reynaldo, and I still remember like Cisco, yes, Poncho. me and my grandfather would sit down and watch them on Sunday afternoon. We watched Cisco Kid, we watched The Lone Ranger, and if it came on, though it's not Western, we watched the Mon Pa Kettle films, which
Oh yes, Marjorie Main and God, who was the other fellow? I forget what his name was, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Mon Pa Kettle. And since you're talking about TV westerns, I figured I would show this off.
I'm so jealous of that. That's such a cool set.
This is the definitive West TV Western collection, 600 television episodes. It's a wooden box, and what this has is this has stuff like The Adventures of Kit Carson, Annie Oakley, Bat Masterson, Bonanza, Buffalo Bill Jr. with Dickie Jones, the Cisco Kid, the Gabby Hay Show, which I'm going to enjoy, the Lone Ranger, which I'm going to enjoy, a few episodes of The Rifleman, the Roy Rogers Show, Wagon Train. And basically, it opens up like this, and here's your book and all your discs that fall out.
This happened to me all the time, man. But you know what? I would prefer that over the spindles where they just put the disc right on top of one another.
Right.
100%. And so the it's Percy Kilbride from the Mon Pa Kettle movies.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Penn. I appreciate that.
Apparently, Beard has a set. He says it's a fantastic set. So it's one that he loves too.
Yeah, and this also has kind of this also has the Tim McCoy Show, which is good. Sheriff of Cochise. And I do have to mention this does have The Unfortunate Pistols and Petticoats, which is a series that Ann Sheridan was actually working on when she passed away. And she's really unrecognizable too when you watch her in this. She's so gaunt, and because she was a heavy smoker, it's really and I watched a few episodes of that series. It's not really that funny either. It's supposed to be a Western comedy. It's not really that funny, which is interesting because it was written by Bob Mosher, who worked on Leave the Beaver, The Munsters, and shows like that. So you think that it would have had a little bit more of that humor in there, but it really didn't. It really just didn't wow me.
It's a shame, like, and especially Ann Sheridan was a beautiful woman back in the day. Too.
Oh,
like,
yes, the Ooms girl.
Yeah. So I don't think I've ever seen that series, but apparently it's probably better not to. Like, remember Ann Sheridan in her glory days, I guess.
Yes.
But it's a shame, like, especially when you hope that like some of these stars are going to go out the way like Christopher Lee did, right? Does Lord of the Rings at the end, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You really hope that there's gonna be like that redemption thing. Boris Karloff does Target's close to, rather than, something that unfortunately becomes a forgettable series that is better left. But I guess paying the bills, right?
Yeah.
Come back to that because you get there and because Western had its time period. Western is one. I'll tell you right now, it's a genre I would love to see come back. And like in force. My only issue, and I'll be honest, is I would love to see it come. When I say I love to see Western, I love to see Westerns come back. Like the way that Westerns were done, like kind of the fun, more action filled, more innocent Westerns. And I have a feeling if Westerns made a comeback, that's not what they'd be. They'd be more. They'd have to make them darker, and they'd make them more edgy, and.
More or less like these.
Actually, I like that. I like those. No, not as good as those.
Yeah, because at least these have star power and good actors in them and good
and the atmosphere. Lines. Like there's an atmosphere yes. that those films have. Like I'm a huge fan of spaghetti westerns. I'm a fan of I like I like pretty much everything. From the early like westerns to the spaghetti stuff, I even like John Wayne. My better half doesn't like John Wayne because she just doesn't like John Wayne as a person. So she can't watch, she can't separate it. Me, I like his movies. I think I love like Red River. There's what's that Dean Martin one that I'm thinking of? Come on, guys. John Wayne, Dean Martin,
Rio Bravo.
Yeah, it's a like one of those mind things. One of my favorite westerns of all time. I watched with my dad, and this wasn't a real popular one, but this speaking of Dean Martin, Remember Five Card Stud?
Oh, Five Card Stud. No, I don't remember that one.
It's a fun one. I mean, I actually super really loved that film. I watched it with my dad. My dad actually had the VHS times, had the VHS of it. It was one of those kind of Western classics, had a really nice cover to it. I still remember the song to it as well. But there was just something different and unique about it. Absolutely adored it.
And so I think everybody and their brother has this set, and I think that this is probably primarily what your audience would be most interested in. And so, yes, the subs has stuff like Death Rides a Horse, which is a classic, Between God, the Devil, and Winchester. It has Boot Hill with Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer. And my favorite film on this set is probably the first spaghetti western I ever saw, which is If You Meet Sartana, Pray for Your Death, which is a fantastic film. It has Klaus Kinski in it, I believe, and what's his name, Gianni Garco, just a fantastic actor. Yeah, and I love the titles of these films too.
Oh, they're fantastic. They put an amazing Sartana set. Arrow did, which I had to pick up because I love the Sartana stuff. I think if I was to pick my favorite like spaghetti western, like it's really hard, but one of them is definitely up there. Is probably The Great Silence. It's just I just love that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't own The Great Silence, which is a shame. Five Card Stud as a Western murder mystery. It very much is, actually, yeah.
Oh, nice. Well deserved, I think. And just wrapping up some of the westerns, because I know we'll probably want to get to other films too. I have a couple of 100 movie packs. Guns of the West.
I've never seen, actually.
And Cowboy Classics. So I'm not going to list all the movies on these sets because, by the time I were to do that, we'd be both dead from old age. And a lot of the stuff is repeated on sets like this, for example, which is Western Legends. There's one movie on this set that I need to talk about. It's called The Apache Kids Escape. It's from 1930. It was one of the first sound Poverty Row westerns. And I did a review of this on Cinema Crazed. It's one of the most sleazy westerns you'll ever likely see, because for some reason, the cowboy hero in this is Jack Perrin, who was a popular B-level cowboy in the silent era, not so much in the sound era, unfortunately. And throughout the film, there's a 12-year-old girl played by Virginia Ashcroft who keeps pawing at him and ogling him. And at the end of the film, he says, how could I leave without saying goodbye to my best girl? And he picks her up, and they have an embrace where she kisses him right on the mouth. It's like one of the most insane things. And the interesting thing about this is the fact that the sound engineer was Dwayne Esper, of course, well known for Maniac, Sex Madness, and stuff. Yeah. And the director is an interesting guy. He's a director by the name of Robert J. Horner. Kind of a sad life that he lived. At 6 years old, he and his brother were playing on some train tracks, and you have to wonder where the parents were. And unfortunately, he lost both of his legs during that accident. And his father deserted the family. And so Horner and his brother wound up staying in various homes for crippled children. And Horner was viciously abused, so much so that he required 4 operations on his legs. It was so bad, in fact, that he wound up having nothing but stumps towards the end. There's actually a cast photo, I believe, from The Apache Kids Escape, or just one other Horner film, where you see him and it looks like, where's his legs? It looks like, what, he's standing in a hole? No, that he's not standing in a hole. That's him. And he had some weird business practices too. He would take out classified ads in the newspaper, asking aspiring starlets and actors to donate money to his productions. And once they did, he would take the money, leave town, and go and make the film. And And he actually cheated Apache Kids Escape actor Jack Perrin out of over $1,000 worth of his own pay. So he had to take Corner to court for that. So yeah, and
He's
that's a
doing like
really
sleazy
bottom of the barrel.
crowdfunding before that existed.
Yeah, yeah. So, and this also has one of my favorite films on here called The Hard Hombre, which I also have on this DVD from Alpha Video. This has Hoot Gibson in it, and Hoot Gibson is one of my favorite B Western cowboys. And this also has Lena Basquette, and it's directed by Otto Brouwer for Allied Pictures, which was run by M.H. Hoffman, who essentially produced those westerns just so that he could make money from those to make bigger productions. This also has like Yellow Rose of Texas, Roaring Guns, Santa Fe Bound, Southward Ho, Neath the Arizona Skies, The Lone Ranger with Clayton Moore is on here. Get Along Little Doggies with Gene Autry is on here. Death Rides the Range with Ken Maynard. So some good stuff on that set. And I know, that we're talking a lot about westerns. Oh, and I
know,
also
which is good. This is the thing you're into. This is what I want to talk about. Is the stuff that you're passionate about.
and I believe you have this set, the Roy Rogers collection.
I do actually. I love Roy Rogers. I love the old, I love the spaghetti western stuff too, but I do love the older school westerns.
Mm-hmm.
I love my dad got me interested in the stuff like the Wild Bill Elliott and the older stuff, the Last Shrews and guys like Roy Rogers
and so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I was just gonna say no. I do have that set. Was all I was gonna say. I was just gonna.
Yeah, so this has good stuff on it, like Young Bill Hickok, Rough Riders Roundup, Sheriff of Tombstone, My Pal Trigger, King of the Cowboys, I believe, is on here. Yes, it is. Billy the Kid Returns, Days of Jesse James, and some good old time action with Roy and Gabby. You can't go wrong with Roy and Gabby, and of course Dale Evans. Actually, one of my favorite Roy Rogers films is a film called Roll on Texas Moon, which is on this set, Cowboys and Bandits. I believe it's on this set. Yes, it is. It's from 1946. So Roll on Texas Moon is probably my favorite Roy Rogers film, and it made me fall in love with the man. And then I have Gunslinger Classics, which doesn't have as much of the B stuff that I'm into, but it does have quite a bit. It actually has an interesting film on it called The Riders of Whistling Skull. And the interesting thing about that one is it has Bob Livingston in it, I believe. No, Ray Corrigan, actually. Excuse me. Yes. And Riders of the Whistling Skull is interesting because it was later remade as a Charlie Chan film starring Roland Winters. It was remade as The Feathered Serpent, which is the only Charlie Chan film to have both number 1 and number 2 sons in it.
Oh.
I know I'm a fountain of useless information.
So apparently Beard says his favorites are The Great Silence, the original Django, and Cutthroat's 9, which is a favorite of mine.
Oh, that's a Beard of Doom. I know who that is. That's a friend of mine. That's my friend Zane. Hi, Zane. How you doing there, buddy? Yes, he was telling me about Cutthroat's 9. He actually told me about a pretty interesting set, I think, from Diamond Entertainment that had Cutthroat's 9 on it, I believe. And bro, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That was a really hard one to find for a while. I mean, like, I know that I think you're correct. And when it eventually came out, was it Scorpion or Code Red? I think Code Red, because that's where I got it from. Eventually put it out on Blu-ray, and I was so excited. I found out about that one again from my dad, who's a big Western fan. He's like, you got to see this Western. It's definitely different, and it was. But yeah, definitely not the Roy Rogers type. It's still a very good Western.
Yes. And my interests broaden from the Westerns. I also like a lot of, let's say, campier fare. Now, I'm going to come to these films' defenses here because I believe that if they are seen in their proper format, like proper CinemaScope widescreen, full color, full sound, instead of, the public domain prints that we've been used to for years, I believe that you would see that they have better production values than we give them credit for. And it's the Warriors Peplum set.
Oh, you speak my language here. You speak my dad's language.
Yeah.
So this is his thing. And my better half, if she was here, those are some of her favorites. She loves that stuff.
I'm wondering why.
No. Hey, wait, I like this stuff too.
And can we just say how addictive the Sons of Hercules theme song is? That's a great theme song. Whenever it opens up one of these movies, it's great. Like, I know it's not the preferred way to watch these things, but whenever I hear the Sons of Hercules, I love that.
I have that set. I got a couple of those Peplum sets. I love that stuff. Do you have particular favorites when it comes to those?
Oh, I got to mention Goliath and the Dragon with what's his name, Mark Forrest. That's a fantastic film with some pretty decent effects work. It's not Harryhausen quality, but it's pretty decent nonetheless. What else have I seen on here? Atlas in the Land of the Cyclops, which is which has Gordon Mitchell and the beautiful Cello Alonso, who recently passed away a few years ago. Hercules against the Moon Man, Goliath and the Sins of Babylon. Probably my favorite on this set is Hercules Unchained with Steve Reeves.
You can't beat Steve Reeves. I was recently rereading a Fantastic Four omnibus, and they were talking about who they'd want to play the Fantastic Four back then, and the guy was like, the Thing has to be played by Steve Reeves.
Yep.
I was like, that's an interesting choice. I didn't know that they were doing kind of like casting in their head back then. But yeah, Steve Reeves was the choice for the Thing. Steve Reeves was up between Steve Reeves and Lon Chaney Jr. and people would argue who should play the Thing back then. But I love that stuff. I remember, didn't the guy from Mission Impossible,
Peter Lupus?
Yeah, isn't he in some of that stuff?
Yeah, I believe so. He might even be in. He's in Hercules and the Tyrants of Babylon from 1964, which is on this set.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew he was. Does he go under Peter Lupus under there?
Yes, he does.
I thought he changed his name. Rock Stevens. Yeah, he did use the name Rock Stevens or something.
Oh yeah, he did go by the name of Rock Stevens. They have him on the back of the cover here. They have him listed as Peter Lupus. Yeah.
Because again, that's what people are going to know. Just like when it comes to Hopalong Cassidy, right? They're not going to know William Bond. They're going to know Hopalong Cassidy.
Right. So yeah, whenever I'm in the mood for peplums, and I've always loved mythology too. So it's not just to see guys like Steve Reeves, doing their thing. It's because I actually like mythology and watching a lot of this stuff. I love a lot of the Sinbad films and the Sinbad stories and stuff. I was so enamored with that stuff as a kid that I just had to track down some films like this. And I wish that the fantasy film would sort of return to this form, with practical effects and beautiful orchestral music and such. And just, I don't know, there's something special about the fantasy cinema of the 1950s and 60s, that we just don't have.
The Harryhausen stuff that I grew up. I remember on it was my 12th or 13th birthday, my mom rented a CED machine, before VHS came around, and she got me Clash of the Titans. I was so excited because I love that movie. And now I've got all the Harryhausen films, and I'm teaching a class on it here in Morocco. But I love that stuff. And to go back and see some of the older stuff, some of the Steve Reeves and some the Reg Parks and the different stuff that's out there is just, there's just something special about it that you can't, you can see them nowadays. They'll do the modern ones and they'll put the not so great CGI effects on that. But there's nothing beats the stop motion animation. Nothing beats it for me. Because there's just the characters in those, especially in the Ray Harryhausen stuff, even the worst Ray Harryhausen film, those stop motion animation characters, he really brought them to life. You felt that they were kind of living, breathing characters, and you just don't get that. You get an uncanny feeling from CGI. You just don't get that same type of feel for it.
Right. That's why I prefer practical effects. Practical effects are the way to go. I mean, let's talk about like King Kong, for example. The 1933 film, I think, is still the best Kong film out there. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
I mean, I have an affection for 76, and I think the less said about 2005, the better.
agreed.
But you know, I even have an affection for King Kong Lives with Linda Hamilton. I think that's a pretty decent entry, even though it's a little goofy. Um, but yeah, practical effects need to really make a comeback. And you know, where are guys like Rick Baker today and Ray Harryhausen today? You know, I'm pretty sure that guys like that still exist out there. Just that Hollywood's not, you know, picking them for their projects. Oh yes,
And
King Kong Escapes too with
yeah,
Linda Miller.
that's what I want to see. I want to see stuff like that. When people said there's a new kaiju movie coming out, because I'm a huge fan of those. I love the Godzilla stuff. I want to know, like, please don't, you know, I want the guys in the suits. I want like, if you can't give me the stop motion, give me a guy in a suit. I'll take that over the CGI any day.
Oh, like Gamera?
Like, oh yes, love me some Gamera, man. The later Heisei Gamera is actually really good, but I love all the Gamera stuff, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I do.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I love the Godzilla films and the Gamera films, and yeah, and this set is marvelous. This set has some great stuff on. This actually has a Don Dohler movie, which is pretty interesting, called The Galaxy Invader from 1985, with two guys that I'm actually proud to be Facebook friends with, and I want to give a shout out to Richard Diesel, who goes by Count Gore Duvall, and does the show, I believe, on Roku. So I want to say hello to him, and I also want to say hello to prolific Baltimore-based actor George Stover, who's been in films with Don Dohler, John Waters, and everybody under the sun. So I want to say hello to them. And this, of course, is Attack of the Monsters, the Brain Machine, which is underrated. The god awful Cosmos War of the Planets. Those, I don't know, I forget the name of the director, but he made a string of those Star Wars ripoffs in Italy, and they're just god awful. I mean, especially there's one called War of the Robots, which you hear that title, you think it's going to be a great film. You think it's going to be, oh wow, robots. What it really is a bunch of guys in gold lame suits running around. It's totally like not what you would expect.
Is that Sabata Senior?
I believe so. I believe so. No, it's not Sabato. It's actually, I believe it's Antonio or Alfonso Brescia. I believe.
I think you're right. I have that set actually, but mine was like kind of the paper one before the, I guess the.
This has the classic Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It has some Hercules films on here. Mesa of Lost Women, Laser Mission with Brandon Lee, the god awful Kong Island. I was gifted that from a friend once, and I hated it. Now here's a couple interesting films: Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet and Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women. Those are both taken from a Russian film entitled Planeta Bur or Planeta Bird, and it's interesting that they both have similar titles, and they both have new footage. Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet has Basil Rathbone, of course, Sherlock Holmes, and a bunch of other great films, but it also has one of my personal favorite actresses in science fiction and film noir, which is Faith D'Amour, who I loved in films like Where Danger Lives, Spin a Dark Web, Cult of the Cobra, and of course the classic This Island Earth. And Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet, Voyage to the Planet Prehistoric Women, see, I can get those confused. That has the great Mamie Van Doren, which, you know, sex symbol.
Oh God, yeah. My dad has a Mamie Van Doren film noir collection, and I'm so jealous.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's Gamera the Invincible, Ega with the Archell Juniors on here. Destroy All Planets, Killers from Space with Peter Graves. Just a wonderful set. If you want to see some classic and maybe not so classic science fiction films, you'll want to pick this up if you could still find it. I believe Mill Creek still sells a version of this set, but you'll want to pick this set up because I highly recommend it. And speaking of classics, we go from science fiction. Well, actually, I have another science fiction set. which I could show off, which is the sequel to that, which is Sci-Fi Invasion.
I didn't pick that one up. I was going to. How was that one?
This has a lot of great stuff. This has Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe, The Bat with Vincent Price, Battle Beyond the Sun, the Crater Lake Monster, The Creeping Terror, Death Machines is on here, Future Women, Fugitive Alien, Extraterrestrial Visitors is on here,
People.
Galaxina with Dorothy Stratton, Giant Metropolis with Gordon Mitchell, The Hands of Steel with John Saxon, Horror High, which is one of my favorites. I love Horror High. The Manster, Morons from Outer Space, which I hear is god awful. Night Fright with John Agar, which I also hear is awful. Rotor, which I do have to give a shout out to a movie podcast that I follow, Movie Sucktastic, hosted by Scott Wilson and Joey Guida. They live stream on YouTube every Thursday night at 8 o'clock, and they review older films, bad movies, and everything, and they give them ratings. Oh, yes, Beard of Doom, Raiders of Atlantis, Fallen, Black Inferno. I love that.
Recently, by like Severance. So, like, guys, this is a way, if you're ever looking at some of these titles that you're not quite sure of, these Mill Creek sets are an amazing way to like sample those titles before you buy them.
Absolutely, and this has Robo Vampire on it, which is one of those Godfrey Ho joints, I believe.
I remember that movie. I had it on like one of those cheap discs. I'm not sure what the company was, but it had a horrible cover on it. But I remember that movie.
Yes, and this also has War of the Robots on here, which that has Antonio Sabato on it. But yeah, some pretty good ones on here. Like Raiders of Atlantis is a really good set. So I love that stuff. The Head, just some awesome stuff. Now we go from science fiction, and what goes hand in hand with science fiction? Horror, of course.
That's a great set. I have that set.
Yes, this has great stuff like The Ape, The Bat, Black Dragons, The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which we recently found out is on sale right now from Synapse, I believe, on oldies.com. So
yeah, it is.
If you watched Aaron's video last night, you would have found that out. So subscribe to Aaron's channel. If you're a friend of mine, subscribe to his channel because he's just a marvelous YouTuber, and just subscribe to him. He's doing great work here. This also has The Fatal Hour, which is one of the Mr. Wong films, House on Haunted Hill, The Hunchback of Notre Dame with Lon Chaney, Metropolis, which is, I believe, the infamous Madison version is on here. Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah. Nosferatu is on here. Revolt of the Zombies, The Phantom of the Opera. White Zombies on here. So you got some pretty good stuff. A Shriek in the Night with Ginger Rogers. So I recommend this. And I also have the culmination of this set. And I have this set.
That's the set. I love that set.
And this set.
Chilling, yes.
Which I'm jealous of you because you have the version that has Bad Taste on it.
I do. Yeah, the cardboard one that had the different films.
Yes.
Yeah, Bad Taste, and there was one other film I think that was the last. They didn't really have the rights to. But yeah, it was. I love collecting the early, like people like sometimes used to rag on the Mill Creek stuff, and Mill Creek's come a long way from those early days. But I love those early days. Like you roll a dice on like quality on some of those films, but the entertainment packed in those sets is priceless for me. And to just go on there and like to find stuff like Bad Taste, and to find like these titles. I remember like I'd read about Todd Slaughter, right, and I hadn't seen like much Todd Slaughter stuff. And finding the Mill Creek sets and seeing like Face in the Window and like the different like Todd Slaughter films, and he's very pantomime, very kind of over the top. He's evil, but I love that stuff, and I don't think I ever would have found it if it wasn't for like companies like Mill Creek.
Absolutely, and a lot of the Todd Slaughter films. Let me just put these somewhere. A lot of the Todd Slaughter films could be found on this Behemoth. Tales of Terror.
Oh, that you got that one.
Yeah,
that is one sexy set, man.
Yes, this has a lot of great stuff on it. You know, I think this has a lot of the Bulldog Drummond movies, which A YouTuber by the name of Zerny Zarak commented on this, and I do agree with him on this. Is Mill Creek has a lot of horror films in their back catalog, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to put a lot of mystery films on here because I feel that they're out of place. I mean, they're good movies, don't get me wrong, but I feel that if they're going, that they should have stuck more to the theme, and added some more horror movies. But I also do understand that this is kind of a shifty way for them to say, hey, you want those other movies? Buy our other sets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it probably came down to putting like previous sets together to make like that specific set. And yeah, because they definitely had enough horror movies like to do like the 200 set on its own. Uh, I'm a huge fan of the Bulldog Drum and stuff, so I'm okay with it. But
Oh yeah,
I understand if you're buying a horror set, you want horror. Like that's kind of what you go, especially if you're going to pay like a more of a premium price for those because those were a bit more expensive. I remember seeing them at my local Costco, and I kicked myself. I should have picked them up because they're on sale. And I was like, "Oh, these look great! I'm going to pick these up." And I went around to pick up some pizzas, like you do at Costco. You pick up your stuff. Came back around, they're all gone.
oh, that's a shame, man.
That's what happens, though, man.
So yeah, this set is great. I'm glad to have this set. Um,
Have a great night there, Maddie. Maddie's headed out, but
have a great night, Matt. And I do have the other 200 sets because I figured it'd be a complete.
so you got all of them. You got the driving one.
Yes.
That is good night. That is a fantastic set.
Does this have my chauffeur on it? Yes, this has my chauffeur, which used to be available from Vinegar Syndrome, but I believe is now out of print.
Yeah, it was one. It was one of the ones where I'm actually glad I got the slipcover because the slipcover was gorgeous for my chauffeur. It's a great film. Deborah Foreman's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you know who I think, if it had been made by a bigger budgeted company, who could have played that role sublimely? I mean, Deborah Foreman is fantastic in the film. But I was doing a little fantasy casting in my head. I think Cyndi Lauper could have aced that role.
Well, she was amazing in Vibes, and people
Yeah.
like underrate Vibes so much. And it's one of my better halves. And I did not know this. Like, I love the movie Vibes. I saw it when I was in high school, but my better half also loved that movie. And not often do you find people that are fans of Vibes, let alone that meet and get married. So,
Well, to be fair, I mean, I know we're talking the drive-in set, but you'll find people who are very few, even fewer people who are fans of this movie, which I love with a passion. I think that this is a surrealist masterpiece, and we don't have to go into backstories of the individuals who participated in it, but I believe that this is a sublime surrealist masterpiece, and Austin Powers before Austin Powers was cool. And I just love this movie. I have so many posters of it, and I could watch it any day of the week. And it's Leonard Part 6.
agree. I mean, yeah, it's one I didn't like when I initially saw it. I'm not gonna lie, but kind of grew on me. Yeah, like we know, like the obviously not a good dude, but still did a lot for like the community. When it came to that, and unfortunately hurt the community. But Leonard Parts was not a fan of Ghost Stamp. Gonna put that in there. I couldn't do that one, but I did. There's kind of a kitsch value that I do find to that one. That's kind of like not quite up there with Buckaroo Banzai. Buckaroo Banzai is like one of my classics, right? I just one of those I love, and it's one of those films where that must have been hell when you gave like the marketing department like the script and they're like, what do we do with this? And same with Leonard Part 6. That's one of those things you're like, what exactly, how do we market this?
Right.
Because like you go the standard like straightforward way and it doesn't quite work. It's not it's a wacky. You go, is it wacky comedy? Are you gonna market it in sci-fi? Are you gonna go in between? As a guy, like this is what I went to school for marketing. These are the things that fascinate me when you see stuff like that. When you see movies that look. I remember when John Carpenter put out Prince of Darkness. That was hell to market. Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic film. Got fans later on. I went to see this with my dad in theater, Prince of Darkness, and it was late when we got out, and I was supposed to stay there, but I was walking home. I was walking back to my mom's place where I was staying at the time, and it was winter, so like there's a ton of snow. My dad will remember this, and it was really slippery. So I'm like, like, Dad, don't drive. I'm only, I'm a teenager. I'm walking. That's and I go through like past this hospital. I go to this graveyard, and I'm walking like in the snow, and I'm hoping that I'm not stepping on any graves or anything like that. And I hit like this hard spot. And I'm like, is there a rock? And so I stop and I look down, and I realize there's a lot of snow, and I'm standing on top of a tombstone. And from that point on, I ran my butt the rest of the way back to the house. Anyway, random story, tangent. Let's get back to the movies.
And so you on this set, I mean, Zerny Zarok did a fantastic video on this and the Tales of Terror set. This has Count Dracula and his vampire bride, which is also known as the Satanic Rites of Dracula.
Yeah.
I preferred the first 70s Dracula film that Lee did, Dracula AD 1972, mostly because of Stephanie Beacham. This also has Click the Calendar Girl Killer, Hot Target, The Hearse, which is fantastic with Trish Vanderveer, which movie Sucktastic, Joey and Scott are actually going to be reviewing that film, not this coming week, but the week after that. So
nice.
They're going to be reviewing that based on my recommendation. So go and take a listen to that. I'll post the link on my social media when that becomes available. This also has the wonderful Death Row Game Show, which is so politically incorrect.
But it's so fun.
Yeah. Galaxina's on here. Hunk, which I like. I like the movie Hunk with John Allen Nelson. I think Deborah Shelton's in that, and James Coco in one of his last roles, I think.
You know how I feel about Deborah Shelton. Hunk is, by the way, one of my all-time favorite movies. A lot of people don't know that, but when I was a kid, well, everybody knows this. I was a super geek. I looked like a geek. Look at me, man. You knew I was a geek. So Hunk is like this movie, by the way, guys. This guy, he's a computer programmer, like kind of. He rents a beach house, and James Coco is Satan, and gives him the chance to become. Is John Treleski? Is it, or is it Treleski?
Name of the character, or
the actor that plays Hunk.
Oh, John Allen Nelson, I believe.
John Allen Nelson, thank you. So he becomes John Allen Nelson, who's this like this hunky guy, but unlike where you see it could go, where he's just going to become like the complete jerk, they don't totally go that way, and I like it. I just really enjoyed that film, and I watched it so many times as a teenager. I watched it over. One, I was in love with Deborah Shelton. That's why, again, Body Double, my favorite Brian De Palma film. I love Hunk. When you say that, it takes me back now.
Oh, I love Hunk. And that also has the wonderful Avery Schreiber in it as well, who was once part of the comedy team of Burns and Schreiber.
Yeah.
So what else is on here? Horror High, Jocks with Mariska Hargitay, a film that I would assume she would like to forget, even though Christopher Lee's in that as the principal.
He is, yeah. I forgot about that. Thanks for coming in, Jacob, man. You have a great day. Enjoy Asteroid City.
This also has My Tutor, My Mom's a Werewolf, The Mistress of Atlantis with Brigitte Helm, who was also the heroine in Metropolis, Liar's Moon, Lena's Holiday, a lot of ninja films, some Fred Williamson joints.
I gotta love the Fred Williamson stuff. He's always dressed like fancy, no matter.
This says The Teacher. I believe this also might have Trip. Yes, it has Trip of the Teacher, The Van Nuys Boulevard, The Virgin Queen of St. Francis High, Yellow Hair and the Fortress of Gold. So basically, you're getting a lot of great Crown International films on here.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff has been released now through Vinegar Syndrome.
Vinegar Syndrome early on did a lot of Crown International stuff. And I wish Hunk would have been one of the ones that they did. Johnny O. Nelson shares the body. Well, he definitely does. I don't think nerds technically existed in the 90s. They did, EH, just so you know. They truly did.
And going on the drive-in theme, I'm sure that a lot of these films play drive-ins. Oh, before we end completely on westerns, I do have the Trail West 200 movie collection, which is a
Incredible sets,
fantastic
man.
film.
Those are amazing looking sets. Like people sometimes diss on like some of the things, and I do like, and I like the black like sleeves when they put them in there, opposed to like just putting them on spindle or something like that. I love when it's done like that, and I think they still do some kind of similar to that with their when they do like DVD TV shows, as opposed to like they do like Blu-rays and they'll have like kind of a fancier case, and but the DVD ones will have like kind of like the cardboard cases.
Mhm.
Because I'm pretty sure like a couple of things that I reviewed on from Mill Creek, because I get stuff from them, had like the kind of the cardboard things, and I actually like it because you got the descriptions right on the cardboard, and I'm like, okay, perfect. I know exactly what I'm watching.
And speaking of films that could have been drive-in fare, I also have the 80s teen drama set from Mill Creek.
That is cool.
This has The Legend of Billie Jean with Helen Slater and Christian Slater, Blame It on the Night with Nick Mancuso, Fresh Horses with Molly Ringwald, Fast Forward, Little Nikita with Sidney Poitier and River Phoenix. And the reason why I bought this set is for immediate family because I like Mary Stuart Masterson. So
I have a version of that because I'm a huge fan of Legend of Billie Jean. I remember seeing it when it first came out. I saw it, and I had the soundtrack. It had was it Pat Benatar? I think sings the theme to Legend of Billie Jean.
And speaking of more drive-in fare, I have these two sets.
I have the drive-in one. It's one of my favorites, actually. I love the stuff on that. You get a lot of cool, cheesy stuff on there.
Yes, this has the wonderful Night Train to Terror with Cameron Mitchell and John Philip Law. Dance with me, dance with me. I love that. This also has Count Dracula and his Vampire Bride. I Wonder Who's Killing Her Now. Jive Turkey. This has one of my favorites on here is a movie called Twister's Revenge, which is basically about a monster truck who, the AI talking monster truck who's they're these three guys, these three dumbbells who are trying to steal it during the course of the movie, and it's just this awesome slice of 80s, Southern country, whatever, It's just an awesome, awesome film. Oh yeah. Drive-in movie classics is a winner. So yeah, this is a good one. TNT Jackson's on here as well, which is a classic with Jeannie Bell. Yeah, so this is a good one. And this has some Crown International stuff on it, as does this. This has My Tutor.
Tomboy's there, apparently.
Yeah. Galaxina's on here, Escape from Hell Island, Coach, Cave Girl, Burnout, Almost Hollywood, The Kidnapping of the President, Jocks, Hunk is on here as well, this is how I saw Hunk for the first time, Super Chick, Stanley, The Specialist, Primeval. Yeah, Weekend Pass is on here as well.
Gotta remember that one. A lot of those, I know there was a company called BEI, and they had a lot of that stuff. Yeah, like, is that the BEI or is that the Mill Creek release?
This is the Mill Creek release.
So BEI put those sets out first, and Mill Creek re-released them after BEI went out of business. There was the Drive-In Cult Classics one. I have some of the BEI actual original editions of those, and because the people that worked with BEI went to Mill Creek. So when they started doing those Ultraman sets, it was the same people that worked on the He-Man sets, and they did the spines with the big picture like they did on the He-Man and She-Ra sets.
Oh, nice. And from what I'm hearing, I thought the company was BCI, but I guess it was BEI. You're saying?
I'd have to look. I got them over there. I think you're right. I think it is BCI.
Yeah, because BCI, the companies are weird because BCI Eclipse, and then Brentwood Entertainment, they all sort of roll in together with each other.
It does. It seems like when you're buying them, especially back then, it's like you're picking one up and you don't know till you get there. The only time I would get a little nervous, and I'm not no shame on a company, is if it was Echo Bridge,
Oh yeah.
because I was like, is this going to be the right movie on the disc?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there was a couple, man.
So yeah, this is definitely a major pickup. The babysitters on here, the Creeping Terror, Click the Calendar Girl Killer, the Hearse is on here. This is how I saw the Hearse for the first time. Trip with the Teacher is also on here, as well as The Teacher, Van Nuys Boulevard, Weekend with the Babysitter, the Pom Pom Girls, the Pink Angels Pickup, Nightclub Malibu High and Malibu Beach are on here. So yeah, this is definitely some good stuff. Sister-in-Law's on this set. The Creeping Terror, if I didn't mention that before, Carnival of Crime. Just an awesome, awesome set. One of the movies has Robert Reed on it, Mr. Brady himself. So you have some pretty good stuff on this set. So I do still recommend this if you could pick this up for cheap, maybe on eBay or somewhere. But yeah, definitely recommend this.
Trip with the Teacher, one of my favorites, man. Zalman King, like, did not know he was such good, like, and he was a great producer for Red Shoe Diaries and stuff. That did not know he was such a good actor until I saw Trip the Teacher. He was just so good as the bad guy in that one. Video Asia is also dubious player in the budget game. I have not had any of their stuff.
And this isn't Mill Creek. This is Anchor Bay, and Stars released this, but this is the 80s teen comedies collection. But Mill Creek has released some of these movies, and it has Hard Bodies 2, Mischief, and Spring Break.
I have this set.
And this is how I saw Hard Bodies for the first time. And
Oh, really?
a little interesting story about my viewing of Hard Bodies for the first time. I took this collection over to a friend's house, and we got so hammered. Well, at least I got so hammered while watching this movie. You know, I kicked back of at least 10 or 15 Miller High Lifes in a row, you know, and was watching this movie, and I was so enjoying it. I don't know if I'd enjoy it sober, but I would like to, you know, go through it once more because it was an enjoyable little film.
It's such a weird plot, too. It's basically a bunch of middle-aged men that go get a beach house and hire this young guy to teach them how to score girls.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the plot of Hard Bodies. But I loved it. I loved Hard Bodies. I loved Hard Bodies 2 as well. God, there's some actors in Hard Bodies 2 that I should be able to remember the names of, but I can't right now.
and of course, I also have these two sets. The excellent 80s and the swinging 70s, when they were doing their sets themed by decade.
I like those.
I'd like to get the 40 set and the 50 set and the 60 set so I could complete these. A shame they never did the 90s set, but I don't think that they have like 50 90s movies that they could put on in a set. I don't think, unless they license
now what
them.
Mill Creek does is they're doing like these like 10 and 15 like sets for like from different years. So they did them for the 60s, did ones for the 7, and like good. We're talking like good quality stuff at this point. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think it was 2000s because I'm pretty sure I reviewed those. They did those before I moved over here, and I was so excited because there were so many good films. There's George Segal films and like just such great kind of like 60s, 70s classic stuff. And it was around the same time they were putting out like a bunch of like these kind of these 70s era war films on like I guess sort of anti-war films really, because they had stuff like Birdie and like one that I remember watching it and I felt so depressed after I watched it, but it was a good film. It was just super. It wasn't like Johnny Got His Gun depressing, but it was close.
Yeah. So I really haven't watched too much from this set, but I have seen. This is the set where I saw My Chauffeur for the first time, and this has a lot of good stuff. This has Honk, Cave Girl again, The Day Time Ended, Dear Mr. Wonderful, Death Row Game Show. That's how I saw Death Row Game Show for the first time, was on this set. Kidnapping of the President, A Bailout with David Hasselhoff. Second Sight, A Love Story's on here with Elizabeth Montgomery, the Leslie Ann Warren film. My Mom's a Werewolf. I'm getting sick and tired of having my mom's a werewolf on these sets. It's enough now because I have them like on a million of these sets. Um, so
Thank you, George. Kind words for Gino right there.
Oh, I didn't see, but thank what a gentleman. He is impressive movie collection. Yeah, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that, George. Yeah, I would love to be back on here. Maybe we could talk some Charlie Chan and Mr. Moto and some other
For
stuff
sure.
because I have a lot of that stuff as well. But yeah, I love talking movies. I very in my local area, I have very few people to talk shop with. So whenever I get the chance to come on and talk movies with somebody, I go all out. I'm telling you.
We'll definitely have you back on for to do like Mr. Moto, like Charlie Chan, like Erewhon as well. That'll be fun. I love those. I love those. I actually some of my first reviews on my channel were Charlie Chan reviews actually.
Oh, I got to go back and watch some of those. I bet those are great.
They're early, so they're okay.
Well, hey, probably even your earliest stuff is probably better than half of what other people are producing.
They say we're our own worst critics. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm a perfectionist too. So
That is so true.
Laser Mission with Brandon Lee's on here. Liar's Moon. So Tomboy with Betsy Russell.
I love that movie actually.
Yes. So yeah, this is a great set to pick up if you're at all an '80s film fan. This is a good set to pick up if you're a '70s film fan. Just fantastic stuff on here. I really enjoy the stuff on here, and and there's some good stars. Maybe not at the top of their game, but like you got some good stuff on here. So I love these Mill Creek sets. They're just brilliant and a good way to add movies to your collection. That and also, I'd even say that they're good to bring on road trips. Like
yeah.
if you're going on a long road trip, just bring along like the drive-in movie set or the horror movie set or the Western movie set, and guaranteed you'll have entertainment for hours on end. I mean, I doubt I'll ever get through watching everything on all these sets, but it's good to know that at least I have these movies. I mean, I hope to pick up some Vinegar Syndrome stuff. If anything catches my eye, I don't know if I'll be able to afford all of it because I am eyeing some stuff from Geno right now too. But
there's a 7-day sale coming up, so we'll 7 days, man.
Yeah. I want to score their Blu-ray of Jetsons the movie because I want to hear the commentary by Lee Gambin because I'm one of the people that likes Jetsons the movie. I know a lot of people don't. I do like Tiffany as well, and I think she did a pretty good job as Judy Jetson. I know a lot of people will probably disagree, but I think that film is a great time capsule of not only the '60s Hanna-Barbera era, but also of the 1980s transitioning into the '90s because you have like the AOR ballads and everything, and you also have like some little semblances of rap in there as well, so, and early CGI. So you have a little mixture of a lot of different time periods, which is really cool.
It's a fun little film, and you're never going to hear me say anything about it. Tiffany, when I was a teenager, I had a wall Tiffany posters entirety. Tiffany was on one wall, Alyssa Milano was on the other. Like teenage year, that was my tip.
Yeah, it's a shame what Alyssa Milano has become, but we won't go into that. Yeah. I mean, I love Jetsons the movie, and it's funny. There's another movie that came out around that time period, also based on a television cartoon series. I love DuckTales the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp. It's one of my all-time favorites.
You're looking for the TV version, aren't you? Because you're still trying to find the one with the bumpers and that on it.
Yeah,
that is a hard find. Hopefully, you keep searching because you never know. One thing I never used to look for at flea markets, I would always pass it by, and then I regret it later on. And now, whenever I'm obviously not here, but like when I go back, when I go to Canada, and if I ever go to flea markets, one thing I do like to look for are tapes, not like VHS tapes that I know are going to be taped off stuff, because you never know what you're going to get. And I love it especially love it if nothing's written on it. You know, it could be somebody's home movie. It could be like a film. It could be like some TV show with like the commercials and bumpers and stuff like that. I would love to have some of the old stuff that I used to have taped off. I was a big like music, like obviously I was a teenager. I used to tape in Canada. We had Much Music, so I taped off a whole bunch of Much Music, and I was a big soap opera guy, so I had like a bunch of like soap opera tapes and stuff taped done off, and like old, like just I tape off anything that came on really late at night. So I'd often wake up with like a movie and a game show called Studs, which probably is better to be forgotten, but it's most famous, unfortunately, for the fact that the O.J. Simpson murder, the two people that he allegedly killed, one of them, the guy, was on the game show Studs, and I used to have that episode taped off, totally by accident. It was just when I was taping off late at night, so I'm watching. I'm like, that name sounds familiar, and I went back like, yeah, that's the guy.
Oh wow, wow. And my friend Zane would probably get a kick out of a lot of the Canadian stuff uh, that you probably watch. He loves he
I love
loves
Eric. Yeah.
yeah, he loves like Hilarious House of Frankenstein. His favorite is he loves what's that show, The Beachcombers. He's trying to find episodes of that.
Look, that's a hard find. I mean, like even for me, I would love to find the Beachcombers lasted an amazing length of time. For those that never saw it, it was like a Canadian series that the main character was Nicodemus, and he was Greek. He had Greek heritage, and it was him, and it was a beachcomber, go out like get logs and things, and we had like kind of a friendly rivalry with a guy named Relic, and Gordon Pinsent was a Newfoundland actor, was in a couple episodes as this kind of like ghostly, kind of almost supernatural character. But my very favorite episode had Brent Carver, who was a Canadian like stage actor, did a lot of Broadway and stuff like that. Probably most famous for Kiss the Spider Woman. Did this episode where the little girl is going home and she makes a mistake of talking to this guy, and in a kind of like a Little Red Riding Hood type of twist, he goes to her house and he like kind of ties up her grandmother and kind of like terrorizes them. It's a fantastic episode of TV. It just kept me on the edge of my seat when I was a kid. I love Beachcombers.
Oh yeah, yeah, and New Kids in the Hall. But my favorite Canadian television program has to be the Red Green Show.
You and my better half. Like when the Red Green Show, when that came on sale, all the way up here, so I can't get it down. But we got the big red green, like the toolbox kit with all the seasons.
Oh man!
So yeah, she picked it up right away. She was like, and I think we got it for like $30, which is an insane price.
Oh man, that's great.
But great show. Yeah, if they can't find you handsome, make sure they can find you handy.
Yeah, keep her stick on the ice.
It's such a cool show, and it's so weird because the guy Patrick McKenna, who plays like Harold, like his nephew, was also on another show at the same time, and where he played this like super kind of slimy type kind of character. And I have a season of it actually. The first season was kind of like a business type of show where they were like kind of like just like kind of a cutthroat series. That's very different characters. He's playing a super nerdy guy, and he's playing this really kind of bad guy, sleazy character that was amazing. Great actor.
Oh yeah, I love him as Harold. He's great as Harold. And Gordon Pinsent was in that show as well, playing Hap Shaughnessy, the best liar in 7 states, or in Canada's case, the best liar in 7 provinces. And Bob Bainborough's on there as Dalton Humphrey. The late great Wayne Robson's on that show. I love all those Canadian actors in that show. They're just phenomenal.
Beard mentioned Robert Clothier, who played Relic. One of the last things I remember seeing him on, he played the teacher on a series called Ready or Not. It was like a teen series that my kids used to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, he was such a big, like, a renowned stage actor. But if Gino, if you ever saw him as Relic, he's like this kind of really dressed down. So you would never guess that, like, here's this like Shakespearean type of guy.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'll have to take a little bit more of a deep dive into Canadian culture, and Canadian pop culture.
Due
Uh,
South. Love Due South. I have all four seasons, George. Paul Gross. Like Due South was great. Men with Brooms is great too.
oh, getting back to Mill Creek, I also have the 12 Creature feature set.
Oh, nice. Get some
Um,
Gamma love on the cover, I say.
yeah, Attack of the Monsters, Bride of the Gorilla, Crater Lake Monster, Creeping Terror, Gamma, the Invincible, Horror High. This is how I saw Horror High for the first time. Horror of the Zombies, Horrors of Spider Island, Kong Island. Oh, not again. Land of the Minotaur, Snow Beast, and the Wasp Woman's on here.
I like as much. I hate spider movies, but I do love Horrors of Spider Island. Just
Oh
because
yeah,
it's not a spider movie, it's like this weird ass monster, and it's so fun.
and you can't go wrong with the bevy of girls in that movie. I mean, my God, just phenomenal film. And I also have classic musicals because I do love musicals. Um,
You are preaching
uh,
to the choir here.
this has an interesting film on it called Check and Double Check from 1930, which is the only film to star Amos and Andy, William Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll, who, of course, from the radio show, they don blackface in this film and star as Amos and Andy. And the film is not very good, but the scenes that they're in are pretty good as far as comedy goes. But not that great of a film. I think that they just were more excited to get Amos and Andy, and they just finished. They said, okay, we got these guys now. What are we going to put them in? You know, kind of like another film. Um, this is a film that a lot of classic comedy fans really don't like, but I actually think it's quite funny, and it's Hypnotized with George Moran and Charles Mack. It was the last feature film directed by Mack Sennett.
Oh,
Yeah, and it has Wallace Ford, Ernest Torrance, Charlie Murray, Marjorie Beebe, Matt McHugh, Louis Alberni, such great actors in that time period. So it's kind of little underrated flick, but not one that you would want to show more modern viewers because there's a lot of, I guess you would say, problematic elements to that film.
a different time. I think with movies like that, the best thing to do, don't censor them. Like put something up at the beginning and say, this was made at a certain time period. Like Disney does a lot for their stuff, like their Disney, like when they put up those classic tins, those steel tins that they put out for it with all Disney classic cartoons. Like
Oh,
they
the
wouldn't
Walt Disney
censor any of
treasure
this.
sets.
Yeah, like they wouldn't censor any of the stuff. They'd say just have like have somebody come on and say, these were made at a different time.
Mhm.
They just represent and they don't represent all the views at the time, just like what was being made then. I think that's always the best way to do that, rather than take it out, is to actually just put in that beginning thing. Don't censor it. Not in my opinion, anyway.
I agree. I agree. History's not there for you to like it. It's there for you to learn from.
Hmm.
You know.
That's what
Um,
history guys. So if you don't learn from it, you make that same mistake over again.
mhm. And so on this set, you have stuff on here like, well, Minstrel Man, which I think that was a PRC film, which I think is the only PRC film that actually got them an Oscar, or at least an Oscar nomination. This has Eddie Cantor and Glorifying the American Girl, Dixiana with Baby Daniels, but that also has Wheeler and Woolsey on, and I love Wheeler and Woolsey comedies. They're among my favorite comedians. Just marvelous pre-code comedies. You got Benita Granville films on here, Sid Charisse, Gail Storm, Lana Turner, Archibald Jr. Wild Guitars on here. You have Tex Ritter films. So this is a really good set. If you're into musicals, this is a fantastic set that says Rock, Rock, Rock with Tuesday Weld. So yeah, pretty good set. I would highly recommend people picking this up if you're at all a fan of musicals, and you want to see some unknowns and some hot stars of the time, like Fred Astaire's on here in the film Royal Wedding, and I believe that's the famous film where he dances on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that I got set the Mill Creek set I got that I have not yet watched because when I bought, like I mentioned to you, I went on Kijiji, which is like almost like kind of like Facebook Marketplace type of thing, and this guy was selling some movies. So I went to his house, and I think it was to buy like a Doc True film. And he said, I got a couple other films here if you're kind of interested. You can have them all for like $10. I'm like, okay, well, what do you got? And he brings out this big box of Mill Creek, like box sets, like 25 and 50 sets and 10 sets and stuff like that. And some of them are not even opened. And so I immediately said, yeah, I'm taking them.
Oh, wow.
So there was one like I wasn't sure it's like a family one or a kids or family set, which might have some amazing films on it. I just never had the chance to check
That
out.
has one of my favorite films on it. Probably my favorite animated film of all time, certainly, which is the Max Fleischer film Gulliver's Travels.
Really? I got to check that out then.
Yeah. That I have a whole collection of Gulliver memorabilia and material. Just off screen here, I have an original Gabby wooden doll from 1939. I have an original tea set. I have Gulliver's Travels coloring books and such. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Gulliver's Travels. Oh, and I have 2 original one-sheet movie posters from the 1950s and 1960s reissues.
I mean, I've recently watched the Gulliver's Travels film too. I have to say, one, I want to have you back on, but 2, I got a message from my better half. Had to meet her at her sister's. I knew you knew your movies, man. Gino, I had no idea you knew your movies this insanely great. Everybody has loved listening to you talk, myself included. My dad, who just put that up there, is amazed at the knowledge that you have. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to get you back on again sometime. We'll talk about some more films. We'll talk about like the Mr. Wongs, the Charlie Chans, and all those as well, because I really want to pick your brains on those.
Oh, absolutely.
But stay here. Don't go anywhere yet, because we're going to go off. But I want to talk to you for a couple minutes afterwards, okay?
Absolutely.
Again, guys, thank you. This is my first edition of Collector's Corner. It's my first time with Gino on here. I'm telling you, it's definitely not the last, because this guy knows his stuff. We'll be putting in his links and stuff. That'll go in later on tonight when I get back, because apparently I have some work that I have to do. Yeah, your day is never done, is it, Gino, man? But thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gino. Anything you want to say or shout out before we finish the video, though?
Yeah, just go to my follow my Facebook accounts. Go visit me at facebook.com/official Geno Cuddy. That is GenoCuddy. I'm also on Twitter at official Geno C. I'm on Instagram at official Geno Cuddy. And also, please feel free to go and read my reviews on Cinema Craze. You can read those at cinema-craze.com/blog/category/Western-Wednesdays, I believe. And there you can find all my reviews from the newest all the way down to the oldest. So yeah, there's no shortage of ways that you could find me. And let's talk movies. I'm all for talking movies with you guys. And if you guys have shows, I'd love to be on your shows as well. Just let's keep the conversation going.
100%. Send me the links later on tonight, and I'll put them all under this video. So guys, come back. Even if you watched the video before, come back later on, because by tomorrow the links should be on underneath the video, so you can check out all of Gino's social media, all the because the guy has a wealth of knowledge, and we've just scraped the tip of it at this point. There's so much more that we can talk about. We barely got started. So I'm looking forward to having you back on here again. And guys, keep an eye out, because we're going to be putting those links down there, and you're going to want to follow this guy. I want to thank you guys so much for coming, and I'll see you next time right here in the Call to Cinema. Gino, man, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, she's been messaging me for a little bit, but I saw like 5 messages. Then, by the way, incredible, man. Like I do want to have you back on. They loved you. Like you could just go on talking and you would listen for hours.
Really?
For really, like I could, like you, I can. The guys that come in here, one, a lot of them are guys that love cinema, and a lot of them, like you'll see them come on that actually have their own channels or podcasts or stuff like that as well. So when they say like that they really like someone, when they give like rave reviews, they mean it. Like there's no like shallow when it comes to their stuff.
Wow. I'm honored. And I'm flattered too.
Well, man, I'm honored to have you on here, and I do want to have you back on. So we'll work on getting you back on here again. Or maybe maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah. Sure.
And who knows? Maybe we can like make a thing where we have you on every once in a while, talk about some classic stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime.
But I am going to get in trouble, so I gotta head out. And this has been incredible. You have a great night, Gino. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll probably, if you're here tomorrow, I'll be doing the vinegar syndrome. So wish me luck on that.
Will do. Will do.
Okay, I got to go before she comes over after me. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.